Hello, everybody. This is another sprint demo for the Evernym team that works on the Sovrin network and contributes to Hyperledger Indy. We're excited to show you what we've done over the last couple of weeks. First, I want to give a little bit of background to how our team priorities have changed. Evolved, I should say. We've made progress on the Audit Ledger that we've been working on for a number of months, and on the new permissioning scheme for the Indy network. We're finally ready to dust off the Sovrin token that we worked on a chunk of last year and make sure it works with the new network. And so you'll find a lot of our work is in the Sovrin token JIRA. This is a public JIRA, I believe. People can see it just like you can see the Hyperledger JIRA. The code is in GitHub in the Sovrin Foundation org on GitHub. And so you can monitor our work here. There's two components. There's the libsov token, which is a plugin to the Indy SDK. It replaces libnullpay and instantiates those payments interfaces. And then there's the token plugin, which is a plugin to the Indy Node and Plenum ledger. And that handles it creates a token ledger and handles recording payments there. So that's where you can follow along with what we're doing. Because of this, over the next few months, our team's going to be working in both backlogs. So we created, we'll have two sprint backlogs, one on the token side for Node and SDK, and of course in the Node project and the SDK project in the Indy backlog. So if people that want to monitor what we're doing, that's what you'll see. You're going to see a lot of back and forth where we work on an Indy Node item, and then we have to fix it in the token plugins because we want to get the tokens back to a state where they can be used by the Sovrin network whenever the network governance decides that they want to use tokens. Their goal is to have tokens on the test ledger where people can play with it for a period of time, and then they'll make decisions about how to move forward and what's required with all the regulatory compliance and things like that they're working on. So our goal is just to make sure it's ready when they're ready. So that little bit of explanation, we made it through a whole lot of work. I was really impressed with what the team got done. We have an SDK release. We'll talk about that. It's mostly bug fixes, but we did a lot of bug cleanup this time, both in the Node, in the SDK and the Node backlogs, and in the token side. We also did a lot of design and discussion about standards. We're going to talk about that more. We want to make sure that people understand Evernym's approach to credential exchange, and we've really benefited from the feedback the community's given us on credential exchange. So I think the community standard is going to be better than what we came up with ourselves, which is really exciting. And the payment side, we need to make sure that people understand how the payments are expected to work on the Sovrin network. So we'll talk about that more. And lots of cleanup of libsov token. Got it working with the new libindy Rust and Rust libraries that are associated with that. This is backwards compatible. We expect in the next few days to release a new libsov token that uses the new SDK and Rust libraries, and it'll continue to work with the token code that's currently on the Sovrin testnet. And then lots of cleaning up bugs. The code we let sit for a little while where we're focused on other things and take a while to get it back to fighting shape. So with that brief discussion, introduction, let's go into reviewing what the team's done. So we're going to start with Nikita. He got a lot of feedback on the different proposals that we've put out as a team over the last couple of weeks. I guess it's been a month that we've been working on this, 6 weeks. So Nikita, take us through that, and then we'll look at the I just realized that there's a duplicate. We have I wrote SDK architecture proposal on both these. Artem, are you doing the SDK proposal, the architecture proposal, or is Nikita?
Yeah, me.
Okay, good. So Nikita's just going to do the credential exchange proposal. Then Artem will give us the SDK architecture proposal and talk about the release a bit. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and let you guys do it.
Oh, that's something wrong. Stop share. So, I think this is the right one. So, During the last month, I think it was like a month ago, it was the last time I've told on the demo about the credential exchange hype. We received a lot of feedback from a connectathon and a couple of inter-agent calls. So we incorporated a couple of them into our hype, and some of them are still in discussion and need some clarification. So what are the most important? We reduced our use of attachments. In some places, they were not really needed, like something like preview section. It was firstly placed in attachments, and now it is moved to the upper level. With this movement, we introduced a new type here called credential preview. And the same goes for the presentation process. We have a presentation preview, and it is as well. It is a new type as well. So they should be resolved like JSON LD. What is the second new enhancement to this hype is the introduction of credential proposal and presentation proposal messages. They will be used to negotiate credential offers and presentation requests when poor doesn't want to receive some credential, or wants it fixed, or doesn't want to give some proof or presentation, and advises to use another proof to the verifier. But previously, it was in the credential request message, which was really complicated. So the diagrams are now updated. What else? And new schemas are posted also with descriptions of their attributes. They're quite simple. And that's it. Also, we simplified a little bit our threading. Now we just use a simple thread that starts on a presentation request or credential offer message, and if some message goes to this thread, it should just introduce a thread decorator and use an ID of credential, a credential offer or presentation request message as THID, as the value of THID field. So that's it about new things in credential exchange hype. And I think there will be some changes soon, but not major ones.
That's excellent. We think the hype at this point is clean enough that other people can start to play with it, implement it even. It is not accepted by the Indy maintainers yet, so we do expect another round of feedback, but it's probably the point where we're going to let it sit for a little while other people evaluate it and do some sample implementations against it. It's a little different than Evernym's current implementation, but because it has some good improvements. So the next step is optionally, as part of credential exchange, you can do payments, and the next step is for us to create a hype for how you can add payment negotiation in your credential exchange. So thank you, Nikita. Artem I.
Hello, everyone. So my demo will contain two parts. First, I would like to talk about our proposal regarding Indy SDK structure, how it will describe agent-to-agent protocol.
So, something is wrong with your video, so.
So I'll try to fix.
Zoom got stalled partway through sharing, it looks like. And if it doesn't work, I can share and you can.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, looks good now. Yep, perfect.
Great. So, hello everyone again. First, I would like to talk about our proposal regarding Indy SDK structure and how it will describe agent-to-agent protocol. We have created a document in Indy SDK repo. Now it's in progress status, and you can find it in the pull requests. This document contains all our thoughts regarding how Indy SDK will consume new and implements new message families, describe messages we see now, state machine, his states, and in transition. Also, here you can find our proposal regarding API, how it looks like. And there are multiple diagrams which demonstrates how it will work together in this SDK, API level, and agent-to-agent. So this pull request you can find here. Any thoughts, comments, or ideas are welcome. We are still working on this. In the next second part of my demo, I would like to announce that new stable version of Indy SDK has been published. Currently, Indy version is 1.8.2, and the V6 has 0.2.3 version. All artifacts successfully published, including wrappers and IndyCLI and NullPay. It tested, it works well. Now I would like to briefly go through changelog. This release was mostly devoted to bug fixes for Indy and V6. Also, it contains a couple new functions for Ledger API. Last demo, I talked about this and showed demo how it will work and can be used. Also, I want to pay attention that we have changed error handling for the V6. Now it follows Indy patterns and returns an additional message to error code. And within this release, we have started our work regarding community agent-to-agent protocol. There are two protocol types V6 supports now in a backward compatible way. It's the old one, Evernym, and the new one, which is still in progress and can be changed next time. Now it includes implementation of three HIPEs you can see here. So we are planning to continue work regarding this. I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Artem. And we want to thank the team at Ian, I think, was the one that did most of the work on the Postgres plugin. So I appreciate all the work that the team at British Columbia did on the Postgres plugin to the wallet. Artem O, can you take us through the three-phase commit changes in order to use the audit ledger?
Sure, welcome everybody. Let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Looks good. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you about some Audit Ledger stuff. As of now, we are in process of integrating Audit Ledger and its features in our code base. Particularly, we have implemented 3PC state restoration and made some significant changes to primary election process. Well, let's start with 3PC state restoration. What is it and what we used it before this fix? So 3PC is the part of consensus, which is handle 3PC batches that allows us to write transactions in right order. So before we used to store it using interval tree for every signal of transaction. So concrete transactions interval equals to some 3PC number. Also, and that's interval 3 updated every batch. We used this variable in when we built ledger status and consistency proof for catch-ups. And when some node finish its catch-ups, it just look on consistency proofs and choose a highest 3PC and set it as last ordered 3PC. So that's how it works before. For now, as we have Audit Ledger, it makes much more easier. That's because we have a synchronization between all ledgers. So the last caught up Audit Ledger will contain the last 3PC number for pool for that moment, and Node, as it just caught up Audit Ledger and all others, it can just take the last transactions from Audit Ledger and apply it. Also, there's just mentioned, we removed, by doing this thing with Audit Ledger, we were allowed to remove current state mechanism, which was really not needed, and it's make code base much more easier to understand. Another feature is primary election changes. This is very important because it allows us to define malicious behavior by comparing the throughput. Why did we make a decision to change this? That's because there was a few known demotion promote issues that happened rare, but because we think that it's probably gonna be many demotion promotion transactions in real life when pool will be like live production ready. We decided to fix that in one task. And that's because we use Audit Ledger for that, also that make the pool more consistent. Well, what changes did we make? We added a new field to audit transaction is primaries. Primaries is a list of names of nodes, as names of nodes are uniquely identify every node in pool. So we can restore in any 3PC state, we can restore the primaries for that period of time. For now, we changed places where primaries for replicas can be set. There are only 3 of them. It's when the pool starts and all nodes can just look at their pool node state and restore it. It's after usual catch-up finished. That was like the main our main goal to fix. For now, when we finish catch-up, we can just take last audit transactions, see at primaries field, and set them to ourselves, to nodes real fields. And after view change finished. There was another case when the F value changed, but now we've decided that it would be more correctly and consistent to make a view change after F changed. So that will let us to primary setting through the view change. The separate feature that we you also want to hear about is a future primaries. That was needed to correctly write to Audit Ledger correct primaries field, because when transaction just applied, we cannot yet know. Before we couldn't define correct primaries for that pool transactions, but using this mechanism, it can be done. Consistency and pretty well. Thanks for attention. If you have questions, please ask.
It's a really good explanation, Artem. Thank you for sharing that. And of course, if anybody has questions, anybody that's watching the video, you can check out chat.hyperledger.org in the Indy Node channel and message Artem and get an explanation. He knows his stuff. You can see why the Audit Ledger we've been really excited about building the Audit Ledger because it solves whole classes of issues, and it's been really valuable. One thing I need to update everybody on is that we were planning on releasing the Audit Ledger in March in order to deploy it on the Sovrin network in April, but we found some additional issues. We're in the process of fixing those. We think it'll only take another extra week or so, but that misses the window, the upgrade window for the Sovrin network, and nobody else is asking for it immediately. So we're going to let it cook a little longer, continue to do testing, and work on see if we can release it alongside the multi-signature features in the second half of April. So that's the current plan for that release, and we've updated the release plan in Jira to reflect that. The other priority the team has had is to increase the Sovrin network is being adopted in production by more and more people. They want to better understand how it works. We want to improve the standards. The documentation is part of the HIPE, the Hyperledger Indy project enhancement process, as well as the SIP, the Sovrin improvement proposals. Those are the ways we propose standards for use by the community and go through that process of improving it with feedback. So we want to document the way the network currently works. And Brent Zundel, Evernym's cryptography expert, has been helping us with a lot of that documentation. So Brent, I'll let you share your screen and you can take us through what you've been doing so that people can benefit.
Okay, my apologies. I've had issues with Zoom screen share the last little bit. So if this doesn't work, I apologize.
If it doesn't work, I'll share and you can guide me.
Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Success!
All right, so this is the HIPE that Mike Lauder and I built based on a LaTeX document. It's about the anoncreds protocol. The tricky part of it was converting the LaTeX mathematical notation into Markdown. Some of the things we were able to do cleverly with by using fonts and some Unicode, but other things were a little too complicated and ended up just being images. As you can see, if you click on it, it's like, oh, there's the picture. But this is, come on, there we go. This is
Brent, anoncreds is how proofs are encoded and exchanged. Is that a good summary?
Yes, so whenever credentials are exchanged, the signatures that are used that enable selective disclosure and predicates, that's anoncreds.
And and you've documented the way it currently works in libindy.
Yes. So this is there's two parts to it. One of the signature types is an RSA-based signature that allows us to do predicates. The other part is this non-revocation, which is based on elliptic curves. And the two of them fit together pretty well. So we have this kind of dual signature model currently, but this walks through the entire process of setting up for issuers and issuing, how revocation works in this setup, how proofs are prepared, pretty much all of the math for beginning to end, so that why it works can be clear to the people who can read the math.
That's great. And this is submitted as a HIPE, so it lives alongside the other Hyperledger HIPEs, is a good piece of standards of how the network works. Because it documents the way the libindy works today, we don't expect there to be a lot of back and forth on this HIPE before it's accepted, but we wanted to make sure we got it documented as we move towards including Ursa, Hyperledger Ursa, which is the new the replacement for Indy Crypto, the fork of Indy Crypto to become a bigger project. In the Ursa community has been working on anoncreds 2.0, which has some nice improvements. So we needed to make sure 1.0 is documented.
Yeah. So the other the SIP that I started working on is about tokens. And really just this beginning summary and motivation sections are done. The tutorial section is still quite ugly because I haven't finished converting it. You can see where things start breaking down here. But the goal with this one is to provide enough information that anyone should be able to communicate with the payment ledger and send the messages, the appropriate transaction requests, and get requests. So these, the transaction types, we're going to include the actual message formatting and stuff like that with these. So this is a work in progress. I'm hoping by the end of next week to have it wrapped up.
Excellent, very good. So this documents what is on the Sovrin testnet today, the payments that are there. Even though we haven't minted on the Sovrin testnet, it's the way those plugins work, and it's the code that's in GitHub today.
The code is there, but tokens are not yet there. So
yeah. Very good. And this is in your own Brent Zundel GitHub repo, so people who want to give feedback can do it there until it gets added to the Sovrin Foundation SIP repo is a proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is new for most of the rest of the Evernym team. I don't think they've seen it. Any questions from Andrew, Sergey, Artem? Very good. Well, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you, Brent, for your assistance on this, and we're excited that Brent gets to work with us for most of the next month. We want to crank out a bunch of this documentation. That'll be really good. For the upcoming weeks, as I mentioned, we're not going to release the Audit Ledger immediately. Instead, that'll be the end of April, alongside all the multi-signature and auth ledger, the authorization on the config ledger improvements. So that's the current plan. Let us know if anybody has feedback on that. So we're going to continue with cleaning up some Audit Ledger fixes and finishing the multi-signature stuff. And then most of our work is going to be on the token side going forward. So we got a lot of bugs to fix that we've identified. We've been doing more load testing, things like that. But most of our work will be bug fixing on the token side, trying to get the tokens plug in to use the new configuration system and be ready for people to use whenever they feel like using it. On the SDK side, we're working on. We're also moving towards focusing on tokens for the next little while. So we do want to get the HIPE for payment transfer ready. Wallet-to-wallet payment transfer, or SIP, is it's probably there's a libnullPay API for payments in Indy, and we want to understand how to do payment-to-payment transfer there. And then the actual implementation is on for the Sovrin network with the Sovrin token. And then we want to do some cleanup in libIndy. There's a bunch of to-dos and fix-me's we want to evaluate and triage. But most of our focus is going to be on the tokens as well. We need to get a plan for making them available, distributing them to wallets so people can play with them on the Sovrin network when they're ready. And then we have that wallet-to-wallet SIP. And we need to get the minting script ready, things like that. I'm not sure how much of this we'll get through. We have a number of people on vacation over the next few weeks, so we'll figure that out. But that's the plan. People can follow along in the backlogs there. Of course, you can find us. Our token conversations are in the Sovrin Rocket Chat at chat.sovrin.org. There's a token channel there. And you can find us, or we can have conversations around the Indy portions of the project on chat.hyperledger.org. With that, thank you very much, and we'll post another video in about 2 weeks.